So as we discussed, these are the different modules of CFX. Under the launcher, we have CFX Pre, CFX Solver Manager, and CFD Post. Also, Turbo Grid is an additional type of a module. When we say three different modules, first comes the CFX Pre, then comes CFX Solver Manager, and then CFX Post. And this can be launched using CFX 13 launcher or on command line, as shown here. This is the launcher, and this is through command line. When we launch individual CFX modules by using just the command line, not through the launcher. Now let's see what is there in basically CFX Pre. Now simulation types for general or specific kinds of problems are basically can be selected or set up using CFX Pre. So we have different type of selection modes. Also customized case setup wizard is there for turbo machinery industry. So specific model inputs which are customized or which are tailor-made for turbo machinery industry can be given by using the selection mode as turbo machinery. Also there are specific solver inputs and customized post-processing sessions. When we select turbo machinery here, most frequently used is basically still the general type. So this is how CFX Pre looks like, and this is the main menu in CFX Pre, and this is the main toolbar shown here. This is the outline tree of CFX Pre on the left hand side. This is the message window. This is the viewer toolbar for selecting various viewer options, and this is the viewer window. So this is how CFX Pre is divided. The graphic display of CFX Pre is divided into these many type of sections. Workflow is basically is seen in the outline. Workflow is seen in the outline, and to define any simulation, we have to just go on following the outline tree from top to bottom. So this is the outline tree. We can go on adding different case setups within the outline tree. Some of the items are optional depending upon what type of simulation we have. So let us now see some workflow examples from CFX Pre. This will be kind of a starters for you, where you could where you can learn how to read in different files, do different tasks in CFX Pre. We will get into detailed case setup in CFX Pre in the lectures to follow, but this is just something to start along if you try to open up CFX Pre and try to do some beginners things. So loading a mesh file is the first thing that you should do once you start CFX Pre. And this can be done by basically going to this mesh tab and clicking right click of mouse, which opens up import mesh, from which you can import various different type of mesh, which creates a domain automatically after you import the mesh. We'll see this actually in a sort of a live demo now. So just to demo whatever we have discussed in the slides before, this is how the CFX Pre window or panel or software looks like. These are all the top panel menus. This is the basically outline tree, and this is where you do the case setup. So what we just discussed in the earlier slides is to add domain. So for that, once we have the geometry imported by file import mesh, this is how the geometry looks like, and the mesh is also along with the geometry, as you can just see here. This is the mesh for this particular geometry. What we do now is basically go on inserting domains. So when we say we go to flow analysis, insert domain, give the domain its name, let's say pipe. So what happens after that is a domain is created, and you have to just select which geometry you want to include in the domain, or this is basically the volume under which CFD equations will be solved. Do rest of the case setup, like define the fluid model, whether it's laminar or turbulent, and press OK. So once that domain is done, you have this pipe domain, but you also have to define boundaries. So after that, what we do is right click on pipe, insert boundaries. So let's say we say inlet. We want to add inlet geometry, so we select location again, that is inlet, and give its properties, like whether it has velocity or not, what sort of velocity it has, and we say OK after that. So we go on adding different type of boundaries into the domain now. After that, whatever we discussed was basically solver. So within solver, we have different solver controls in the slide that we have seen. These are different mathematical schemes, conversion criteria for each equation, and mathematical schemes for each equation. So this is the solver panel, and how we export after that is once we are done with all these things, we go to tools. We say basically solve and start solver and define run. So this is how we write the .da file, and after that the solver starts. If we don't want to start the solver immediately automatically, we can say only write solver input file. So that only writes the .df file but does not solve CFX solver, does not start CFX solver. So this is how we progress in CFX pre. The next thing is to actually define domain properties. So this can be done by, once you import a mesh file, you will see a default domain. When you right click on that default domain, you can change the default domain properties by going to edit default domain. You can do this for even the domains that you will create later on your user created domain rather than the default automatic domain. You can also create boundary conditions on a domain by right clicking on domain and saying insert boundary. Once that is set, the boundary tab or boundary panel opens up where you can give different names as well as properties or inputs for a particular boundary. Other thing is basically solver control, where you can go to the solver outline and you can click on solver control and then edit, and you can change different mathematical solver parameters within the solver control. Once you are basically done with the case setup, what you have to do is export the .df file. For that you have to go to simulation and right click, start solver, define run, which opens up a write solver input file dialog box, and you have to give the name of that definition file, after which it basically writes the definition file for the CFX solver. And if you can also choose quit CFX pre. Now these sort of things have basically changed in CFX 13, which we'll see in the live demo after these slides.